Princess Zelyara sat alone in the highest chamber of the celestial spire. The spire was a large space station. Floating silently above the neutral planet Varathian, it was a place where many different alien races came to meet, to talk about peace and trade. But today there was silence, deep and heavy. Zelyara's pale blue eyes looked out through the wide windows into the blackness of space. Stars twinkled far away, but none of their light reached her heart. Her long silver hair fell over her shoulders like a waterfall of moonlight. People said she was the most beautiful princess in the galaxy, but beauty meant little when sadness filled her soul. The Alari people, her race, were known for their calm and control. They could use their minds to move objects, share feelings, and even see small things in the future. Yet they were not used to showing strong emotions. When Zelyara lost her bondmate, a partner, chosen by their psionic bond in a terrible battle with the Kragan horde, her sadness became a heavy cloud over the whole empire. Since then, she did not speak much. She hardly smiled. She spent hours in quiet meditation, trying to find peace but finding none. Her advisors worried. Diplomats from many planets came to see her, hoping to bring good news or offer friendship. But no one dared disturb her too much. Her psionic power was strong and dangerous when she was angry or upset. "Your Highness," her chief advisor said carefully, "the Galactic Concord has sent a new cultural liaison. A human named Drew Mercer. He is different from others. Maybe he can help." Zelyara did not answer. Her eyes stayed on the stars. The Galactic Concord was a new alliance of many planets working together for peace. Humans had only recently joined. Many other species did not understand humans well. They were loud, emotional, and often reckless. But humans had something else: humor. Captain Drew Mercer was a human man in his early 30s. He was tall with messy brown hair and bright green eyes. He wore the uniform of the Galactic Concord, but what made him special was his past. Before joining the Concord's diplomatic corps, Drew had been a stand-up comedian on Earth. He had made thousands of people laugh with his jokes and stories. After Earth joined the galaxy, Concord thought his humor might help soften tough situations. Drew's ship arrived at the celestial spire with a quiet hum. He stepped out, carrying a small bag of personal things and a confident smile. The other diplomats looked at him strangely. Some whispered that human thinks he can joke with princesses. Drew ignored the whispers. He was here to do a job. His first meeting was with the spire's security chief, a tall robotic figure named R9. Drew tried a simple joke to break the ice. Why did the star go to school? Because it wanted to be a little brighter. Or -9s. Lights blinked, but it said nothing. Suddenly, the station's alarms blared, doors locked. The other diplomats rushed by, glancing at Drew as if he was a troublemaker. "Sorry," Drew said with a sheepish grin. "Guess my joke was too powerful." The chief advisor led Drew to meet Princess Zelyara. The room was cold and bright. Zelyara sat on a raised platform, her posture perfect but stiff. "Captain Mercer," she said in a soft voice. "Do you have come to entertain me?" "No, Your Highness," Drew replied respectfully. "I'm here to help. I hear you have been very sad." Zelyara looked away. "Sadness is not for sharing." Drew nodded. "On Earth, people say laughter is the best medicine. Maybe it can help here, too." Zelyara's eyes narrowed. "Tell me, human, what kind of laughter can heal a princess who has lost everything?" Drew smiled. "Well, I have some jokes, but I don't know if they will work in space," Zelyara said, almost bored. Drew thought for a moment, and then said, "Okay, here's one. Why don't scientists trust atoms?" Zelyara raised an eyebrow. "Because they make up everything." The words hung in the air. No one moved. Zelyara blinked. Her lips twitched. "Is that ... funny?" she asked. "It's a start," Drew said, hopeful. For the first time in many days, Zelyara's expression softened. But then she said, "I will not laugh just because you ask. The weight of my loss is too great." Drew nodded. "That's okay. I'm not giving up." Over the next few days, Drew tried many things. He told stories of Earth's strange customs, of people slipping on banana peels, of talking animals in cartoons of funny faces made by babies. Sometimes his words got lost in translation. Sometimes the Alari simply didn't understand the point. But something changed. Zelyara began to watch him more closely. She noticed how Drew's eyes lit up when he laughed at his own jokes. She saw how other diplomats started to smile when Drew told a silly story at a dull meeting. One afternoon, Drew found Zelyara in the garden dome. The plants glowed softly under artificial sunlight. She was looking at a small blue flower. "Princess," Drew said gently, "have you ever heard about Earth's ugly dog contests?" Zelyara turned her head slightly. "Ugly dogs? Yes, people love dogs, but sometimes the dogs are not pretty. They have funny noses or crooked legs. But the people laugh with joy. They see beauty in the strange." Zelyara's eyes softened further. "Perhaps there is beauty in sadness too,"
Maybe.
Drew said with a grin. "Maybe sadness and laughter are two sides of the same coin." Zelyara did not answer. But when she looked at the flower again, the blue petals seemed a little brighter. That night, Drew sat alone in his quarters, writing jokes in his small notebook. He wondered if he was making any difference at all, but deep inside, he felt hope. Somewhere in the silence of the celestial spire, a lonely princess was beginning to feel something new. Outside the windows, stars continued to shine. Somewhere far away, the universe was waiting to laugh again. Captain Drew Mercer woke up early in his small room on the celestial spire. He had only been here for a few days, but already he felt the weight of the mission. Making an alien princess laugh was harder than any crowd back on Earth. Still, Drew believed humor could break even the toughest walls after breakfast. Drew walked through the spire's wide, shining halls. He carried a small notebook filled with jokes and stories. Today, he planned to try something new he wanted to share. Earth humor with the other diplomats, and, if possible, get Princess Zelyara to smile again. He passed groups of aliens from different worlds. There was a tall, thin diplomat with green skin and 6 eyes, a small, furry creature with quick hands, and a large, armored being that looked like a walking rock. All were serious and formal. Drew noticed some looked at him like he was strange, or even rude. Drew stopped near a group of Alari diplomats. They were whispering quietly, watching him with cautious eyes. "Hey," Drew said with a smile. "Did you hear about the space restaurant? Great food, but no atmosphere?" No one laughed. Instead, a thin Illyri woman raised her brow and said, "That is not amusing, Captain Mercer." Drew sighed but kept trying. At the next meeting, Drew stood before a crowd of diplomats. He cleared his throat and started his act. He told a knock-knock joke. Knock, knock. Someone replied quietly, "Who's there, Cargo?" "Cargo who?"
What?
"Cargo beep beep. It's a space truck." No one smiled. Several looked confused. A translator stammered, trying to explain cargo beep beep to an alien who had never seen a truck. Drew felt a little discouraged, but laughed anyway. Okay, tough crowd. Later, Drew met with Princess Zelyara in the hall of Ecos a large, empty room where voices and thoughts could be heard clearly. Zelyara sat silently on her throne, calm as ever. "Your Highness," Drew said politely, "I'm trying to bring a little Earth humor here, but I see it's not easy." Zelyara's eyes flickered. "Humor is strange. It feels like noise inside my mind." Drew nodded. "Get it. Earth humor is often silly or weird, but sometimes it can make people feel less alone." Zelyara looked down, quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Tell me one of your jokes. If it fails, I will not speak to you again." Or smiled, feeling a little challenge. "All right. Why did the astronaut break up with his girlfriend?" Zelyara stared at him blankly. "Because he needed space." No reaction. No smile. Just silence. Drew tried another. "What do you call a moon party?" Lunatic Zelyara guessed. "Exactly," Drew said, excited. She remained still. "Your jokes seem meaningless."
Out.
Drew laughed softly. "That's the point sometimes. But I'll keep trying." Spell. After their meeting, Drew visited the station's common area. He noticed many aliens looked bored or tired. So he sat down and started telling stories of Earth's strange traditions. He spoke about April Fool's Day, when people play harmless tricks on friends. He described how humans put funny hats on animals or wear silly costumes, tilted their heads, curious but unsure. A furry creature with bright orange fur whispered to a nearby diplomat, "These humans act like children." Drew didn't mind. He knew humor was new for many of them. One day, Drew decided to tell a story about Earth's ugly dog contests. He explained how people celebrated dogs that looked funny or strange. The dogs might have crooked legs, missing teeth, or funny ears. But people loved them all the same. As Drew described the contest, he acted out the dogs' silly walks and funny faces. Slowly, a small crowd gathered. Some diplomats smiled or chuckled, quietly. Even Zelyara appeared at the back of the room, watching with interest. After the story, Zelyara approached Drew. "Your stories are odd, but they make my heart feel ... lighter." Drew grinned. "That's a start." Zelyara looked at him carefully. "You are unlike other humans I have met. You do not hide your feelings." "Why?" Drew shrugged. "On Earth, we believe showing feelings helps people connect. Maybe it can help here too." Their talk was interrupted by a sudden alert. The station's security system announced an unauthorized intrusion attempt. Everyone grew tense. Drew asked, "Is it the Krogans again?" Zelyara nodded. "The Krogan horde sees humor as weakness. They do not understand us." Drew's green eyes hardened. "Well, they've never met a human who stops laughing." Later, Drew attended a peace meeting with Kragan envoys. The Kragans were fierce, heavy-armored warriors with deep growling voices. They looked down at Drew, clearly unimpressed. Drew tried a joke about Krogan cooking. It fell flat. The Krogans grunted and turned away. After the meeting, Drew sighed. "Tough crowd," Zelyara approached him quietly. "You face many walls, but you do not give up." Drew smiled, because sometimes the best way to break walls is to laugh through them. Zelyara looked thoughtful. "Perhaps humor is not just noise. It may be a bridge." Over the next few days, Drew's jokes began to spread through the spire. Guards told each other his silly stories. Diplomats laughed quietly during long talks. Even the security robot R9 played along, repeating Drew's knock-knock jokes in its mechanical voice. Drew and Zelyara met often now. Sometimes Drew told jokes. Sometimes Zelyara shared small memories of her lost bondmate. She explained Alari customs about grief and honor. Drew listened carefully and learned to respect her silence as much as her rare smiles. One evening, Drew stood on the balcony outside the princess's chamber. The stars stretched endlessly before him. He whispered, "Maybe one day I'll find the right joke that makes her laugh for real." Suddenly, Zelyara appeared beside him. "Captain Mercer," she said softly, "I do not understand your jokes completely. But your laughter is ... strange. It feels like a light in the dark." Drew looked at her. "That's what I hope to be, little light." They stood quietly, watching the stars together. For the first time, the silence between them was not empty. It was full of hope. The celestial spire hummed softly as Princess Zelyara sat in the Hall of Echoes. The room was vast and empty, with walls that shimmered like liquid silver. Her thoughts could be heard, and silence felt deeper than anywhere else on the station. Today, she waited for Captain Drew Mercer. Drew arrived carrying his small notebook of jokes. He looked tired but determined. He knew the princess was fragile, like a delicate crystal that might break with the wrong touch. Yet he believed that humor, the kind from Earth, could bring light where there was darkness. Zelyara's eyes, as pale as frozen ice, watched him closely. "You persist, human," she said softly. "Why?" "Because I think laughter can heal," Drew replied, "even if just a little." She nodded slowly. "I have not laughed in many cycles. My bondmate is gone. The joy I once felt has disappeared." Drew sat beside her on a smooth silver bench. "Tell me about him."
Ow.
Zelyara closed her eyes. "His name was Kalen. We shared a psionic bond since childhood. He was strong, kind, and brave, but he died in battle with the Kragan horde. Her voice trembled like a fragile thread. Drew wanted to say something comforting, but knew words were thin against such loss. Sometimes Zelyara continued. I wonder if joy is even possible after pain like this. Drew smiled gently. On Earth, we believe even the darkest night ends with dawn, and sometimes laughter is the dawn. Zelyara opened her eyes. Show me, then. Drew flipped open his notebook and read a joke. Why did the Scarecrow win? An award? Zelyara waited, because he was outstanding in his field. No reaction. Drew tried another. What do you call fake spaghetti? An impasta. Still silence. Zelyara sighed. Your jokes. They do not reach my heart. Drew nodded. Maybe humor is like a seed. It needs time and the right soil. Suddenly Drew closed his notebook and stood. Tell you what, I'll try a story instead. He began telling a tale from Earth. It was about a man named Bob who tried to teach his dog to talk. The dog misunderstood and said silly things like, I want a pizza with extra bones. Drew acted out the dog's funny face and silly mistakes. Listened. A faint smile touched her lips. Perhaps. This story is less harsh than jokes, she said, quietly encouraged. Drew continued with other stories of Earth's odd customs. He spoke about silly dances people did at festivals. How children made funny faces to cheer up friends. The way humans sometimes laughed at themselves when they made mistakes. The more he spoke, the lighter the air seemed to become. Plants. In the garden dome nearby, glowed softly, as if the joy was feeding them. Days passed, and Drew's stories spread like soft light through the celestial spire. Diplomats gathered during breaks to hear the strange Earth tales. Guards chuckled quietly. Even the stern Kragan envoys showed small cracks in their fierce faces. One afternoon, Zelyara invited Drew to walk with her in the garden dome. The air was fresh, and colorful flowers bloomed under artificial sunlight. They walked slowly, side by side. Captain Mercer, Zelyara said, I feel something strange when you tell your stories. It is not sadness, nor joy. It is ... hope. Drew smiled warmly. Hope is the best feeling there is. Zelyara stopped beside a blue flower. When Kalen died, I thought all hope died too. But maybe hope lives in small things, like a flower. In this dome, Drew looked at the flower and then at Zelyara. Hope is like a joke too. Sometimes it surprises you. Sometimes it helps you see the light again. She studied him, her eyes brightening. You are a strange human, Drew Mercer. Loud, awkward, and full of laughter. But you carry a gift. What gift? Drew asked. The gift to remind me that life is not only sorrow, that joy can grow again. That night, Drew lay awake in his quarters. He thought about the princess, about her pain and the light he was trying to bring. He knew this was more than just a mission now. It was personal. Suddenly, the station's alarms blared. The peaceful silence shattered. Drew jumped up and rushed to the command center. The security chief, a tall robotic figure named R9, spoke calmly. Unauthorized access detected near the communications array. Possible sabotage attempt. Drew's heart raced. The Kragan horde. Zelyara's voice came through the comm system. It seems they do not like the changes here. The Spire's crew moved quickly to secure the station. Drew helped coordinate with the security teams, using his knowledge of human tactics to anticipate the intruders. Meanwhile, Zelyara remained calm but tense in her chamber. She reached out with her psionic mind, sending protective shields around. The station, the intruders, masked and armed, tried to reach the communications array, but the station's security was too strong. The invaders were caught before they could cause serious damage. After the event, Drew and Zelyara met again in the Hall of Echoes. The Kragan see humor as weakness, Zelyara said quietly. They want to stop the peace before it begins. Drew clenched his fists. They don't understand. Laughter is strength. It brings us together. Zelyara looked at him with new respect. You have shown me that even in sadness, there is a way to heal. Drew smiled. I'll keep telling my stories no matter what. She nodded. Then perhaps we will find peace not in power, but in laughter. Drew left the hall. He felt a warmth he had never known in space. The princess was beginning to heal, and maybe, just maybe, so was the galaxy. Outside the windows, the stars shone brighter. Somewhere the light of laughter was growing stronger. The celestial spire was alive with activity. The recent intrusion attempt by the Krogan horde had shaken everyone, but it had also brought something new, a sense of unity. Diplomats and guards now shared more smiles, small jokes, and even laughter. And at the heart of this change was Captain Drew Mercer, the human who refused to give up. Princess Zelyura stood on the balcony of her chamber, watching the stars with a quiet expression. The night sky seemed endless and full of secrets. For many cycles, she had only seen darkness inside herself. But now, something was beginning to change. Drew stepped out beside her. Carrying a small bag of earth, treats, a tradition he had started to share with the princess. Among them were strange things like sweet candies in a small glowing cube he called a fidget toy. "Try this," Drew said, handing her the cube. "It's supposed to help with nervous energy." Zelyura took it carefully. She turned the cube in her hands. Its soft light pulsed gently. For a moment, her face softened. "Our strange Captain Mercer," she said, "but I find your strange ways, comforting." Drew smiled. "I'm glad. Maybe we're both learning." The peace in the celestial spire was fragile, but it grew stronger each day. Drew continued to share Earth stories and jokes. Some were simple, like the one about the cat who thought it was a dog. Others were silly, like the story of a man who wore mismatched shoes to a dance. One day, during a diplomatic meeting, Drew stood and said, "May I tell a story?" The room fell silent. Many diplomats were tired of formal talks. They looked at Drew with hope. "This is a story about friendship," Drew began. "On Earth, there was a boy who found a tiny bird with a broken wing. The boy cared for the bird until it could fly again. When the bird flew away, the boy felt happy because he helped a friend." The diplomats listened quietly. Even the Krogan envoy seemed less stern. Zelyura watched Drew closely. She felt the story's meaning deep inside. "A friend's care can heal," she said softly. "Yes," Drew agreed. "And sometimes laughter is part of that care." After the meeting, Zelyura invited Drew to a private dinner in her chamber. It was the first time they shared a meal alone. The food was simple, but delicious on Earth's recipe Drew had learned from a chef on his home planet. They talked about many things, their worlds, their cultures, their hopes. Drew told Zelyura about Earth's festivals and how people danced in the streets, sometimes clumsily but always with joy. Zelyura smiled for the first time in a long time. "You bring light where there was only shadow." Drew looked into her eyes. "And you remind me that even the strongest need help sometimes." As the days passed, Zelyura's laughter grew more frequent. It was soft and shy at first, like a small flame. But soon it became stronger, filling the spire with warmth. One evening, Drew decided to organize a small event, a night of Earth comedy and stories in the spire's main hall. He invited diplomats, guards, and even some Krogan envoys. The hall was filled with aliens of all kinds. Some were skeptical, but curiosity shone in their eyes. Drew stood on the small stage and began his show. He told jokes about Earth animals, about human silly mistakes, and about the strange habits of his own family. He acted out funny scenes and made silly faces. Laughter filled the room. It was a sound long forgotten in the celestial spire. At the end of the show, Zelyura stepped onto the stage. She spoke softly but clearly. "I have learned much from Captain Mercer. Humor is not weakness. It is a bridge. It is light in dark times." The crowd applauded, some wiping tears from their eyes. Drew smiled at Zelyura. "You've taught me, too, that even in sadness there is hope." Suddenly an alarm sounded. The spire's security alerted them to another threat, this time closer and more dangerous. The Krogan horde was attacking. Drew and Zelyura exchanged a look. The fragile peace was at risk. Together, they rushed to the command center. The battle was fierce, but the unity among the spire's defenders was strong. Drew used his quick thinking and earth tactics to help coordinate defenses. Zelyara used her powerful psionic abilities to protect the station. The Krogans were pushed back, treating with growls of frustration. After the battle, Drew and Zelyara stood among the defenders, tired but victorious. "Your laughter gave us strength," Zelyara said. "It united us." Drew shook his head. "No, your courage brought us hope." They looked at each other with respect and something more, an unspoken promise of friendship. The celestial spire was safe. For now, but in the quiet that followed, Drew knew the journey was not over. There would be more battles, more darkness, yet, with laughter and hope, they could face anything. And somewhere beneath the stars, a princess was no longer sad. The celestial spire was healing. After the Krogan attack, repairs had begun, and spirits were slowly rising again. But this time, the fear was not as strong. Something had changed. It was laughter. Everywhere in the spire, people were smiling. More, the Alari guards joked quietly while standing on duty. A group of diplomats from distant planets were seen laughing at one of Drew's old stories about Earth animals wearing clothes. Even the robotic staff had started repeating his favorite punchlines. But Drew, something was bothering him. There had been a message earlier that morning, warning from Earth Command. More Krogan ships had entered the star system. Holding a flower in one hand, his face serious. "You are quiet today," she said gently. Drew looked at her and gave a small smile. "I guess I've run out of jokes for now. That is unlike you. There's something I haven't told you," Drew said. "Earth Command wants me to leave the spire. They're afraid it's too dangerous." Zelyara's eyes darkened. "And will you go?" "Don't want to," he said honestly. "Not when we've come so far." "You brought laughter to this place, Drew. And to me. I do not want that light to leave." Before either of them could say more, a call came through from the control tower. All senior diplomats and defense advisors to the war room. Immediate meeting. They rushed to the command center, where a large star map showed the Krogan fleet, moving quickly toward the station. There were more ships than anyone had seen before, heavily armed and heading straight for the... Stood tall, her voice firm. "We do not run. We will protect this place. With peace, with unity." But unity was cracking under pressure. The various races began arguing. Old grudges returned. Trust started to break. Drew watched, heart sinking. All the work they had done, was it about to fall apart? Then he did something no one expected. He stood up on the central table, clapped his hands, and said loudly, "Okay, okay, why don't aliens eat clowns?" The room froze, because they taste funny. Drew finished with a grin. No one laughed. At first, then a small voice, an Alari child, who had snuck into the room, giggled. That one giggle spread like fire. The diplomats paused. Some shook their heads, but others smiled. The tension eased just slightly. Zelyara raised her voice. "Captain, Mercer is right. We cannot fight fear with fear. No, we must stand together, as we did before." A plan was made. Not to attack, but to send a message. A different kind of message. Zelyara and Zelyara. And Drew stood before the spire's main communication array. They would send a galaxy-wide broadcast, not of warnings or threats, but of laughter, of peace, of unity. As the cameras turned on, Zelyara spoke first. "We humans have a saying, laughter is the best medicine. Well, we're giving the galaxy a full dose." He began telling the story of Earth's first duck parade, a strange festival where hundreds of people dressed up like ducks and danced through the streets as he acted out the waddling dance. Even the camera crews laughed. Back in the Krogan warship, their leader, General Vorak, stared at the broadcast in confusion. His warriors were watching. "They are mocking us." But another voice, calmer and older, replied, "Or maybe they are reminding us what peace feels like." Back on the spire, the message spread fast. Across systems, across ships, across planets, beings of all kinds began to smile. Some laughed, some just listened. No attack, no message, just silence. Then, and unexpected. His face rough, but thoughtful. "You have surprised us, Princess Zelyara." "Inhuman Captain Mercer," he said. "We came expecting fear. You answered with laughter?" Drew raised an eyebrow. "You didn't expect a duck parade, huh?" Vorak almost smiled. "No. And now we must rethink our path." The transmission ended. The Kragan fleet turned away. The invasion never came. Celebration followed. The spire lit up with soft lights. Music played from many worlds. Laughter filled the halls like a song. That evening, Zelyara and Drew sat beneath the glowing trees. "In the garden dome, you told the joke that saved a world," she said quietly. He chuckled. "I didn't save anything alone. We all did this together." Zelyara looked at him. "When I first met you, I was lost in sorrow. Now, I feel something I thought was gone forever." She nodded in joy. Drew reached out and took her hand gently. "Then I've done my job." For a long time, they sat in silence, not the empty kind, but the peaceful kind. It's the kind full of stars, smiles, and second chances. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, the sound of laughter continued to echo. The celestial spire had changed. No longer cold and silent, it now echoed with warmth, laughter, and hope. Diplomats walked the halls with lighter steps. Aliens from rival species shared meals. And floating gardens above the main chambers bloomed. Brighter than ever before, peace, once a distant dream, now felt possible. Princess Zelyara stood near the high window of the observation ring, watching the stars shimmer. Her pale blue dress moved gently with the artificial breeze, and a soft glow surrounded her an effect of her energy returning. Behind her, Captain Drew Mercer entered with his usual easy smile. "You called for me, Princess?" She turned and smiled genuinely, warmly. "Yes, Captain Mercer. Or should I now call you Ambassador of Earth?" Drew rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm still getting used to that title. I'm better at telling duck jokes than giving speeches." She laughed softly. "And yet your jokes changed the course of a war." He joined her by the window. "Maybe laughter is stronger than we thought." They stood quietly for a while. Below them, the spire's plaza was full of life. Celebrations were still going. Small lanterns floated into the air, and songs from various worlds played together in harmony. "Do you miss Earth?" Zelyara asked suddenly. Drew looked thoughtful. "Sometimes. I miss the trees, the oceans, the silly old coffee machine in my office. But I've found something else here." She tilted her head. "What have you found?" "Purpose," he replied, "and friends. Real ones. Even some that glow in the dark." Zelyara laughed again. "We Alari do tend to shine." Drew looked at her closely. "And you've changed too." "Yes. I once believed sadness would never leave me. That losing Kaelin would mean joy would never return." She paused, taking a deep breath. "But you showed me that laughter is not forgetting. It's remembering how to live again." Drew smiled gently. "Kaelin would be proud of you." "I believe he would," she said softly. Suddenly a soft chime echoed through the chamber. A message appeared on the screen nearby. "Incoming transmission." Krogan Horde General Vorak, Drew, and Zelyara exchanged glances. "Let's see what our old grumpy friend wants now," Drew said. The screen lit up. General Vorak appeared, still large and fearsome, but his eyes were calmer now. "Princess Zelyara, Captain Mercer," he began. "I bring news." Drew raised an eyebrow. "Good or bad?" "Perhaps both," Vorak said. "There is a faction within our people that rejects peace. They call us weak for not attacking. They are planning to break away and cause chaos in nearby systems." Zelyara frowned. "What can we do?" "I have a request," Vorak said. "Send us someone, a diplomat, a voice of peace, one that our warriors will listen to." Drew blinked. "You want ... me?" Vorak nodded. "You speak with humor. You make others listen. If we are to stop a war, we need more than weapons. We need your stories." Drew turned to Zelyara. "What do you think?" She smiled. "I think you've already done the impossible once. Why stop now?" The screen faded. Drew looked out the window again. "So ... I go to the heart of the storm. Zelyara took his hand. Not alone. His eyes met hers. You'll come? She nodded. The Alari were warriors once, long ago. But I believe we are something more now. If laughter can reach the Krogan, perhaps so can light. Preparations began quickly. A small peace delegation was formed, led by Princess Zelyara and Captain Drew Mercer. They would travel to the Kragan homeworld, a place of stone, fire, and strict honor codes before departure. The Spire gathered for a farewell ceremony. Children handed Zelyara flowers that sparkled like stars. Diplomats gave Drew a small book filled with their favorite jokes, translated into 10 alien languages. One joke read, "Why did the asteroid break up with the planet? It needed space." Drew laughed. I'm definitely using this one. Their ship lifted from the Spire. Thousands watched from the towers. Flags from different worlds waved together. For once they were not separated by fear, but connected by something brighter. Hope. The journey was long. Along the way, Drew recorded short joke messages for nervous passengers. One by one, their anxiety turned into amusement. On the final day, Zelyara approached Drew. Do you think they'll truly listen? Drew looked ahead at the glowing red world of the Kragan. I don't know, but I believe in what we're carrying. 8. Is that, she asked, laughter, friendship, and a reminder that even warriors need joy? They landed on the Kragan world. The air was thick and the sky burned orange, yet they were welcomed with respect. General Vorak met them with a nod. You came. Drew extended a hand. I said I would, Zelyara added. We bring no weapons, only stories, jokes, and peace. And so, the meetings began. The Kragan warriors, at first cold and silent, began to thaw. Drew told the story of Earth's most unlucky explorer who once got stuck in a vending machine. He acted out every step, even the flailing arms. Laughter echoed low and rough, but it was real. Zelyara spoke of stars that sang, of the power of empathy, and of how even grief can grow into strength. Slowly barriers fell, and then it happened. Something. That changed history. A Krogan elder stood and said, Perhaps. The human is right. Perhaps strength is not in silence, but in connection. Peace was possible. A treaty was signed weeks later. The breakaway Kragan group lost support. War was avoided. The Celestial Spire became a symbol not just of diplomacy, but of something far more rare in the galaxy, laughter. Months later, Drew and Zelyara stood once again in the Garden Dome. He looked at her. So, ... what now? She smiled. Now we keep telling stories. And jokes, especially the duck ones. Drew laughed. Then I guess our work is never done. Above them, the stars twinkled like they too were smiling, and somewhere deep in the galaxy, a little Earth humor continued to change the universe one laugh at a time.